All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive with me. And I'm really excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking into the architectural history of New York City
Ooh.
based on some fascinating excerpts that I sent over earlier. And yeah, I think it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I think architecture is really underappreciated as like a historical source.
Oh, totally.
It's a city's autobiography, written in stone and steel and concrete.
I love a city's autobiography.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. The first line of our excerpt, it says, the history of architecture in New York. And, that's interesting, but it kind of begs the question, what era are we even talking about here?
Yeah.
New York has gone through so many transformations.
Right. And that's what makes New York architecture so interesting, right? Is that there are so many different periods and styles all kind of smashed up against each other.
Yeah.
We tend to I think of like Art Deco, and we think of like classic New York architecture, the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building.
Right.
These kind of like these gleaming spires, that really capture that Jazz Age energy, that sense of like reaching for the sky,
Yeah, for sure. Those buildings just scream New York.
Yeah.
But our excerpt doesn't give us any dates or specific buildings.
Yeah.
It's like we're working with a puzzle with a few pieces missing.
We are working with fragments, yeah. But that's kind of part of the fun, right? Like even a single name, a passing reference can open up, a whole new avenue of architectural history.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, actually, speaking of names, it does mention the Flatiron Building.
Oh, the Flatiron Building. Okay.
Yeah, just in passing, as one of the city's early skyscrapers.
Oh, yeah. That's a great example of, form following function.
Okay.
Its unique shape comes from the plot of land that it sits on, where Broadway and Fifth Avenue intersect.
Right.
A really difficult space to build on, and yet they did.
Yeah, well, they just went with it, huh?
They did, yeah. And not everyone was thrilled, at the time.
Really?
Yeah, some people called it Burnham's Folly, after the architect Daniel Burnham.
Oh, wow.
Others worried that it would collapse in strong winds, but, it stood its ground and became this icon, a symbol of New York's architectural ambition.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that architecture, it's more than just aesthetics.
Right.
It's about problem solving.
Absolutely.
And pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
And I guess reflecting, the anxieties and aspirations of the time.
Of the time, yeah, for sure. Your excerpt also touches on another really interesting period, the Gilded Age.
Okay.
And the rise of Beaux-Arts architecture.
Right.
Those opulent mansions along Fifth Avenue, the grand public libraries, all that ornate detail.
Yeah.
It speaks to, a desire to emulate European sophistication.
Okay, so I have to ask, why should someone who isn't an architect or a historian care about all this?
That's a great question. I think it's about understanding the city, that we live in.
Okay.
You walk down the street and you see a row of brownstones, a gleaming skyscraper, a grand Beaux-Arts building. You're not just seeing structures.
Right.
You're seeing a timeline. You're seeing a reflection of the people who lived and worked their dreams, their challenges,
That's a great point.
It's a way of connecting with the past,
Yeah.
and understanding how it shapes the present.
Totally. You've definitely given me a new perspective on all those buildings that I see every day.
Good.
So we've talked about all these older buildings, but what about today? What's the new architectural trend in New York? What story does that tell us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see a lot of experimentation with sustainable materials, green spaces, integrated into buildings, a real focus on creating spaces that foster a sense of community.
Right.
It reflects our growing awareness of our environmental impact, and I think a desire to build a more equitable and sustainable future.
Wow. So we've gone from, reaching for the sky to reaching for a sustainable future.
Yeah.
It's amazing how architecture mirrors those societal shifts.
It really is. And I think it's a reminder that every building, even, the most mundane ones, holds a piece of the story. Yeah.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
Yeah.
I feel like we've uncovered some really fascinating insights today.
Absolutely.
And, it's amazing what you can learn from just a few excerpts.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's all the time we have for today, but I want to thank you for joining me on this exploration of New York's architectural history.
My pleasure.
And to you, dear listener, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up.
And keep an eye out for those architectural stories.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.